Hello, hello, hello. We are back with another episode of the Jane Warren podcast. And this is going to be juicy because we are talking about navigating dating and relationships as an entrepreneur. Not only that, but how to be successful in love and leadership. And I love this because this is what I'm fucking going through and living right now. So I've got Allison Walters here. She is a dating and relationship coach and healer, and she's helping entrepreneurs. She's going to help me today. I can certainly tell you that. She helps them design their brain so they can thrive in life, love, and leadership. I mean, you can have it all. I believe you can have it all. So, Allison, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Jane. I love your energy, love your content. I'm so grateful to be here and excited to have this conversation.
This is going to be so good. And
Yeah.
I'm just exceptionally excited about this because this is my life. Like, literally, as we were discussing just before, I am single right now. Hello, boys, if you're listening. I am on the dating apps. I'm exploring my options.
Mm,
And I
mm,
myself have seen firsthand the challenges of being a driven, successful boss, babe, bitch, entrepreneur, everything that I am, queen. I've seen the challenges that I faced that my partners couldn't handle it. And
mm.
we're not in competition here. So, Allison, let's get into this. I would love for you to share with our listeners because you are new to them. So, why don't you share a little bit about who you are, how you got to where you are today, and what led you to being this type of coach?
Yes, absolutely. So, uh, you know, I'll tell you a little bit more about my background and my whole story, how I got here. So basically, when I was young, I would deal with anxiety as a child, but undiagnosed. And then once I reached high school, things kind of reached a point where I was developing like more depression, anxiety. By the time I was 17, I actually had full-blown anxiety, depression, and PTSD. And I was 17 when I went to UCLA for biomedical engineering. And so all of those things kind of coalesced. And when I went into engineering, I did very poorly because I couldn't sleep because of the panic attacks that I was dealing with. It really impacted my grades. I actually repeated a math class 3 times. And this was like after graduating as a valedictorian from my high school. It was such a shift in so many ways, just identity crumbling. Like it was intense. Um, and so I sought help. I went to therapy, and all of the therapists that I talked to were like, okay, get on this medication, get on this medication. Sorry, you're stuck like this forever. Like, this is just going to be your life now. You're going to always deal with this. And that just never rang true to me. I just knew there was something that was going to change this. I just needed to find it. But it wasn't without struggle. My relationships, even in college, they followed the same pattern where I would like attract these men who just weren't quite it, or who, like you said, couldn't handle me, or just were rude or not very nice or didn't quite like me, right? But I was attracting these messy relationships over and over, and I was like confused. Why is this happening, right? Miraculously, I graduated UCLA with a degree in biomedical engineering, and I started as immediately in Silicon Valley working as a biomechanical engineer at a startup, really fast-paced startup. So it was super intense. I thought all my problems would vanish once I graduated college. I was like, yeah, it'll be fine, right? Nope, it didn't. It just continued, just at a different level. And then I discovered personal development around this time. I was like, okay, something needs to change. I need to get to the bottom of this. So I really went in on personal development. And I got so obsessed with it. I loved it so much that I started coaching practice on the side as an engineer. All my coworkers thought I was crazy. But then I kept going. And I eventually met this amazing woman who was a hypnotherapist. She also was a Christian. So she was one who brought me to God and got to know Jesus. So that was amazing too. So she was with me when I was going through this really challenging breakup, another situation like that. And I was like, it was 3 months after the breakup, and I still wasn't over it. I was still very heartbroken and upset. I had a 2-hour session with her, and 3 months of heartbreak and being messed up, gone in 2 hours, like gone. And I was fascinated. I was like, you just rewired my brain with hypnotherapy? Like, what? Can we do this with all of my trauma? And she was like, absolutely. Like, we can fully heal this. And so, boom, fully healed my anxiety, depression gone, PTSD completely gone. Haven't had a panic attack since that day. right? Just incredible stuff. So I was obsessed. I was like, I need to be trained in this. So I got trained in hypnotherapy, neurolinguistic programming, timeline therapy, all sorts of stuff. Got certified as a master practitioner, added all of that to my coaching practice. My coaching practice blew up. I quit my engineering job and I went full time as a hypnotherapist, and I just like never looked back. And I'm just like more passionate than ever about people getting these tools and resources because there's really like nothing wrong with you. It's just bad patterns, it's just bad programming, and we can change that. So that's kind of my main message here is like if you're self-aware and still stuck, it's because of this programming, and we can fix it.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Thank you, one, for sharing all that. What a journey you've had. And I just love to hear people's journey from where you wound up, whether you did post-secondary education or whatnot. I resonate strongly with having very good grades coming out of high school, reality check in university, being forced to take so many courses that just were not my strength, showed my
Yep.
true weaknesses, but maybe my perseverance has also graduated university. But look at that now. I love hypnotherapy. I've never actually had it done to me personally, but I've worked, my old coach is a hypnotherapist. So there's lots of things that I'm surrounded by a lot of hypnotherapists. I love it. Okay, so it sounds to me like you obviously were seeing some repeated behavior from
Yeah.
your past and from your dating life, and that really needed to shift. So, okay, let's talk now about so leaders, entrepreneurs. Let's talk about how that might be different from, let's just say, someone that has a 9 to 5
Yeah.
versus being an entrepreneur where obviously like I come from, let's say, corporate America, right? I come from the corporate world. It's interesting, even when I started my business, I was like trying to keep it, well, more or less within my standard working time because that's how my mind was. Now I
Right.
obviously have released that and I kind of work when I'm in flow and so forth. But
Yeah.
let's talk a little bit as it relates to dating. What are
Yeah.
some of those like key differences between dating as an entrepreneur versus dating as a 9 to 5er?
100%. So, the some of the key differences for dating as an entrepreneur versus a 9 to 5er is, so where do I begin? As women, entrepreneurs, we are so capable and we are so good at multitasking. We are so good at managing so many things at once, right? I mean, you're a testament to that. You're like
Yes.
you're like, I could do anything. You're like, get out of my way. I've got this. I'll handle this, right?
Yes.
It's not a problem. Someone comes to you with a problem, you're like, it's fine. I got this. Like, boom, solved, right?
Yeah.
So we're driven. We have goals. We have a vision. We have all these things. We're moving forward. We're doing. Yes. So all of those things that I just described are traditionally masculine, right? So there's masculine and the feminine essences. The masculine essence is that of doing, giving, penetrating, directing, leading. All of those things are very entrepreneurial, right? The feminine essence is that of softening, opening, receiving, nurturing, right? Flowing, all of these like relaxing, right? Like gooey things, amazing things, right? Now, most people interpret that as like, oh, the feminine isn't powerful. That is so false. The feminine is like the source of legacy. Like we cannot have children without the feminine, right? Like it's incredibly powerful. It's one of the most powerful things on this earth. It's just powerful in a very different way. And people just they're mistaken in how to leverage each of these things. And so as entrepreneurial women, we tend to get stuck in our masculine. We tend to operate in our masculine 99% of the time. And we don't know how to flip the switch often when we go home or when we hang out with our significant other when we're dating, right? Because it's like we're still in that do mode. Like we're looking for stuff. We're like, oh, we got this, we got this. Like, what's going on? Like, let me solve it, right? And then we go on this date and it's like, oh no, the reservation's gonna take 45 minutes. Should we go somewhere else? Where our phone is already out. We're already on Yelp. We're already have 4 different options. We're already like scheduling the
We
Uber.
already thought about it.
Or we already have 7 other reservations on lock, right? So it can be a little intense and overwhelming, right? And it's kind of like a pacing
Mhm.
issue almost, where a woman who is an entrepreneur is going to need almost a more masculine man. Why? Because opposites don't attract, polarity attracts. So if you're strong in your masculine, you're often going to attract a more feminine man unless you're deliberate about it, because your energy just will naturally polarize to that. But what,
Hmm.
as entrepreneurial women, what really serves us is attracting a man who out masculines us, which drives us towards the feminine more. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's so interesting. And I can see through my past partners, I can see that were masculine men, as what if you saw them, it's like they're very masculine men, but they also were much more emotional almost, and I say emotional like kind of vaguely, I suppose, but they
Yeah.
were definitely, yeah, I wore
Were
the
they?
pants, like, like it was, but also too, it comes very deep rooted with me because my parents, both of them hardworking, middle class, had 4 kids, both worked. And my mom always instilled a very strong work ethic in all of us. And I
Yeah.
mean, my dad too, my dad always worked, but my mom was always the one that was really like,
Yep.
okay, stood behind
Yeah.
us, strong women, become a
Yes.
strong woman, encouraged our growth, encouraged all of that. Like super proud of all of us right now. I have 3 sisters, so, and a brother. And so, yes, I think it goes deeper for me because it
Yeah.
stems from my upbringing.
100%. And like, I was just posting about this on my stories this morning, actually. It's so funny. Where my cat, I was like petting my cat and I was recording a story. And then he like picked up some trash off the ground and started eating it. And I was like, no, spit it out. And I dug my fingers into his mouth and like got the trash out. And I just put like motherhood and then eye rolling emoji, right? And then in the next story, I said, did you know that mothering is one of the most masculine energies to be in? And the reason that I talk so much about this is because it is surprising, but it's also not surprising because people think masculine means like buff,
Hmm.
he looks, it's like visually masculine, correct? Like
I
that's what,
even just said that a second
yeah,
ago. Yeah.
yeah. But what people don't realize is that that's not masculine. That's just buff, right? What is truly masculine is that he puts you in your feminine. He makes you relax. He takes problems away. He solves your problems. He takes burden off of you. The masculine is giving, 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 giving. What is the mother doing all the time? Giving, 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 giving. Also, what is she
Hmm.
doing? Directing. Don't eat that. Spit that out. Give me that. Where are you going? What? We need to go here. Get in the car. Soccer practice. Let's go. Right? It's like managing, right? And the shadow side of the mother is also very nurturing, right? I'm talking more about the shadow side of the mother, where it's
Hmm.
like this kind of momager, Chris Jenner momager energy. Have you heard of that expression
I
before?
love that.
I use
I
that
saw
like,
it in your stories.
yeah, yeah, Chris Jenner momager energy going on. And if that's happening, then that's the shadow side of the mother, where it's like very much more masculine versus the, you know, lighter side of the mother, which is nurturing, caring, encouraging, empowering. Right? It's like fertile ground for the garden to grow. Um, so, anyways, people think that like macho means masculine. People think that aggressive means masculine. The masculine is not aggressive. The masculine is assertive. The masculine knows exactly what he wants and he gets it. He's direct, he's assertive, he's no nonsense,
Sounds like
right?
me. Those are all words I used to describe myself. No
Yeah, and
nonsense.
it's not bad. Like it's really
Hmm.
good that you have those qualities. It
Hmm.
makes you a high value woman. Because there's really high value men out there who are like, where are the women with drive? Where are the women who with passion? Where are the women with direction? Because that's really attractive. Think about Layla Hormozy. I talk about her all the time, right? Layla and Alex, they're both driven, they're both working, and yet they still have traditional gender roles. Like Alex was just talking about this on a recent podcast or something, where he was like, I value that. And I didn't know I valued that until I met Layla.
Hmm.
There's men out there looking for that because they out masculine you. You say you're masculine, guess what? There's a man that's like 10 or 20 times more masculine than you. Like, where's Jane? I'm looking for Jane. Where is she? I wish she would show up. Right? And
Yeah.
his strength of masculine, because he has a masculine core, you have a feminine core. So you're just like being masculine some of the time and embodying that energy. It's not your natural state necessarily. So his natural state of the masculine is going to polarize you and relax you so that you can relax into the feminine. Is this making
I
sense?
love, yes, I love this. And it's
Yeah.
making so much sense because I can see how what I was lacking in my past relationships, I was lacking for them to take on that, to take on some of that. What's
Yeah.
so interesting is a relationship I had for 3 years when it ended, I was always the one that was like, the bills were under my name, everything, right? Rent was it was my rent, all these factors. When he moved out in the span of 2 weeks, got a place, organized all this shit. And I was like, where the fuck have you been for the last
Why
three
didn't
three
you do it with
years?
me?
And
Yeah.
then, yeah, and I was kind of like, well, I taught you a lot or something,
Yeah.
like when I took it away and I wasn't mad or I was just like, that's very interesting that like
Yeah.
now you've gotten all your shit together. But I can see now, and it's interesting conversations just in the last day since I reopened
Yeah.
Bumble. And I'm only talked to two people, and I know my energy attracts a certain type of person now. I have put out very good dating vibes, and I'm like, I know that what I want is out there, and
Hmm.
I'm like very cautious. I feel what energy I get from them, what they write. I actually pay attention. And one of them, he just like said today, he's like, "This is so impressive." He's like, I've not really come across anyone on here that's so passionate about what they do. And then it's funny because he's like, whoa, it sounds like you do a lot. Like, do you have any free time? And I'm like, I just told you all the areas that I do business in. It doesn't mean that I'm doing that all the time. I'm like,
Yeah.
I strive for ease and flow. I
Yeah.
strive for all of that. But it's fascinating because the last person I dated for a couple, just like for a couple months while we're trying to kind of figure out if it's a true match, he was so close to what I knew I was looking for. And I knew there were some things that maybe wouldn't work out and didn't work out, but he was so close. So I always know now every single person I'm getting closer and closer
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
closer to what I
Yeah.
want. And I'm allowing myself for that. But I do know
Yeah.
I want a man that is going to, yeah, step up for me
Yeah.
or just be him, really. And that's who he
Yeah.
is. So I can like chill the fuck out because I don't want to be the one I was making the decisions. I don't want to be the one doing that. I make decisions. Well, I'm a project manager outside of my business. So it's
Yeah.
like 17 years of telling people what to do. Like,
Yeah.
tell me what to do. Like, there's nothing
Yeah.
sexier than a man literally like someone actually, I just went on a tea date on Sunday and it was like really impromptu. And he's like, do you want to meet in like an hour? And I was like, sure. He's like, do you want to meet at this place at 5:30? And I was like, perfect. And like literally, I was like, thank you. It's not like, where do you want to go? What do you want to do? You know what I mean?
Yeah. What are you feeling like? Yeah. So dating as an entrepreneur is so different because, people think how you are in business is how you want to be in life, right? Like you're gonna be a boss babe
Mm.
in the streets, a boss babe in the sheets, right? But it's like, no, no, I'm gonna be a princess.
Yeah,
Passenger princess in the car. I don't know where we're going. I don't want to know. I'm just showing up here, right?
a
Like, where's
thousand
my matcha
percent.
latte and my chocolate muffin? So, that's what we really want. And it's almost like the more driven, I work with a lot of driven entrepreneurial women. It's almost like the more driven and entrepreneurial they are, the more they yearn for that. It's like a yearning. It's like a deep sense of knowing that they could be relaxed and they spend all of their time not relaxed, right? And it's not a bad thing. It's passion, like you said, like that is a rare thing nowadays. That you're right, it is a rare thing that you have, that you're so passionate about what you do, and it's deeply attractive to the right kind of man. They're looking for that quite often, especially those really high value men who also have, things going on. Like I had this woman in my DMs, she has 12 businesses. She's like, every time I get on the dating apps and men find out I have 12 businesses, they ghost me. And I was like, well, what circles are you spending time in? Are you going to the places where the man that you want is? Like, think
Exactly.
of an in-person mastermind, right? Like, the
Mm-hmm.
caliber of man is just different in these
Mm-hmm.
different spaces. So you need to go where they are. It's like in the Bible, everyone finds a wife at a well.
Oh my
Whenever
gosh.
the well goes up, you're like, oh, I know he's gonna get a wife right now. So it's like you got to find your well, you know? And
Mm-hmm.
like I think the well for really strong entrepreneurial women is going to be co-ed um like
Events or
mastermind.
spaces.
Yeah, like Tony Robbins
Yeah.
events. Like I went to a mastermind recently and I met the most incredible man And he bought me a first class ticket to come see him in a couple of weeks to spend time together. And he's like just incredible. He has amazing values. Like it's like he checks so many boxes. I'm just incredibly excited to go experience that. And I found him at a high level mastermind.
That's so interesting. I believe that. And my good friend, she said, so she's also an entrepreneur, very successful. And she told me she's like kind of, she's based out of the UK. She's over kind of the online dating thing. She hasn't had a good
Mhm.
experience, so it doesn't feel right for her. But she, in her mind now, she's like, I believe she goes, I do believe I'll meet a man somewhere, but it's not on a dating app. She's like, I feel like I'll meet him, when I'm living her best life, like out traveling, doing something. But I love this idea of joining, masterminds or joining some type of event that's happening, co-ed event for entrepreneurs, because it's exactly right. Like that's the type of person that
Yeah.
I want to be with because they understand.
Yes. I honestly, like, I cannot date a 9 to 5er. I did that last year, and just the lack of drive, the lack of motivation, the lack of passion, it wasn't attractive to me, you know. I find it deeply attractive when a man is very clear on his mission and purpose, which is the masculine. Like the more masculine he is, the more attracted to him I will be, because it's just because I'm a feminine woman, you know. And what really helps women, I teach this thing in my courses in my one-on-one called dancing along the performance edge, because what women really struggle with is burnout. Like women like you, women who are really high performers, who are constantly in their masculine, they're burning out. Yes.
Hmm.
And so the reason why is because they spend so much time in their masculine, they're all in their head, so they're outside of their body. So they wind up with body aches, body pain, body breaking down, getting sick, getting all these like physical symptoms going on, right? The reason for that is because the masculine is in the head, the feminine is in the body. If you ignore the feminine for too long, she's going to start shouting at you. So you really need to take time, like when you're pulling away from your work, drop down into your body, drop from your head into your body, get in touch with your heart, hand on your womb, getting in touch with that, and like reminding yourself, like, yes, I'm a woman, I'm here, I can just be, I can just exist, I don't have to earn anything, like, I'm free, right? And resetting that for yourself, that's how you flip the switch, right? You need to flip the switch. You can't just be on all the time, because you're gonna run out of energy. So the dancing along the performance edge that I teach is go and go hard. You're so passionate, you're so driven, you're so capable, you're really high performer. You can go hard for a really long time. But when you
Hmm.
feel the edge, when you connect with your feminine more, you get really in tune with your edge, like the edge of burnout, where you're like, I'm about to burn out. If I don't stop right now, I need to stop. When you feel that edge even slightly, you stop. You stop, drop, you flip the switch, and then you drop into your heart, drop into your womb, and then just relax, just be. Go make some cinnamon rolls and, like, you know, do your thing. Take a bath, you know, go dancing with friends, go out to a movie, go have an experience, like a visceral experience where your senses are activated, your five senses, because
Hmm.
that's going to bring you back into your body where you're experiencing things, right? Versus thinking about things, which is business. So that's what I teach, to help women just never burn out again, because they're always managing their own experience. They're always managing their own energy levels, and they're replenishing them by going back into the feminine.
I love this. And this is something that I definitely practice and I do it. Like I know ways in which I need to step away. Like
Yeah.
even this, I was in California and I was visiting friends and they're like, he's like, well, my friend Jeff and his family, and he's like, well, what do you want to do? And I'm like, whatever. Like
Don't
I
ask
literally just
me.
like
Don't ask.
yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Like I'm happy to do
Yeah.
anything. Do we need to take your kids to dance? Let's go. Like I'm just
Mhm.
happy to be in your beautiful home in California, breathing in different air, getting the sunshine, and just embrace that. And then when I got back to Toronto, I was like, okay, got to channel this energy. I got to keep this going because it was so good, and I'm coming right back into
Yes.
my previous environment, coming right back into my previous work. I'm like, I need to channel that. And then, I made sure I filled my week with things that exactly like got all my senses like
Mhm.
going and flowing. I had my birthday, I had a beautiful dinner with my best friend. Like, on the weekend, I just relaxed. Like,
Mhm.
I was like, this is my weekend. I couldn't wait. I woke up Saturday morning. I'm like, this is my day. I have
Mhm.
no plans. And so
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, let's go into, I know we could just probably run
Yeah.
off on a million tangents. Okay, so what are some of the biggest mistakes here that entrepreneurial women will make when they're dating to marry?
Yes. So I would say one of the biggest mistakes an entrepreneurial woman can make when she's dating to marry is the mother to martyr pipeline, entering the mother to martyr pipeline. Okay. So we talked briefly about the shadow side of the mother, the manager, the momager, the Kris Jenner, like, let me control you and like manipulate the situation, right? Where you're super absorbed and interested in them. You're like overly concerned with them and what they're doing and how they're doing it. Like, oh, feed the dog. No, not like that. Not like that. Why are you feeding it like
Why are
that?
you
Like that.
cutting the
You know what?
onion like that?
I'll just do it myself. I'll just do it myself. Exactly. How dare you cut this onion like that? That's ridiculous. Like, I'll do it myself, right? And it's so sneaky. It's so sneaky because like it happens so quick because we're so effective, right? This
Because
is what
we're micromanagers of everything.
it's I like it's almost it's not necessarily like a micromanagement. I hear what you're saying, like, and I agree. And it's like almost thoughtfulness. Like we're so thoughtful. We're
Yes.
constantly thinking about everything, right? We see all of the options because we're high performing women, right? That's why you need a
We're the
man who's
path of
like
least resistance. We're like, well, if you cut it this way, it's not because it's
faster.
better. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And so, you know,
Mhm.
that's why one of the most important things you can do is find a man that you respect. If you don't respect him, don't date him. If you don't respect
Oh,
him, don't. Like, you know, because a man you respect,
100%.
you're not going to be micromanaging a man you respect. Oh, cut this onion this way. No, you would be like, however you're cutting the onion is
That's
hot.
sexy. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
No,
And so
it's so true.
yeah. And so the mother to martyr pipeline is like this. When it's like a slow, sneaky accumulation of things. Like it breaks my heart. But all the time on TikTok, I see these like videos of moms who like set up their phone to record, and there's like three kids crying, one kid on her hip, and she's cooking dinner, and the man is just sitting there watching TV. And the woman like puts on the screen like, oh, what am I supposed to do? He just doesn't care about us. Like, this is so heartbreaking and all of these things. And it's like my heart really goes out to those women. And at the same time, that didn't happen overnight. Like in the beginning of their
Mhm.
relationship, he wasn't like that. And I'm not blaming the women. It's a two-way street. Trust me, it's a two-way street. He didn't have boundaries to say, hey, stop managing me. And
Mhm.
she didn't have respect to stop managing and taking stuff away from his plate. Like, oh, you're doing it wrong, I'll just do it. You're doing it wrong, I'll just do it, right? And so by mothering, by taking more stuff on, by directing, by guiding, by managing, by mothering so much, we wind up as martyrs. That's a mother to martyr pipeline. It's like a direct link. If you're mothering a man, you're going to wind up a mother. And this is why I always say, like, don't loan a man money, don't solve his problems, don't,
Mhm.
don't, get him a job. Like, he doesn't
Mhm.
that's
Mhm.
turning him into a little boy. And the reason why people stop having sex in their marriages is because we're not attracted to like childishness, right? That's no. We're attracted to masculinity, right? Leadership. But if you're mothering someone, you're kind of infantiling, oh God, that word,
Yeah.
tantalizing
Infant.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so why would you be attracted to that? You wouldn't. It would be completely unattractive.
Oh my God, can we conference in my best friend? Like literally,
Yes.
it's so
Right now.
interesting because everything you're saying is resonating so strongly. And this is going to be like, women are going to be listening to this and be like, holy shit, like this is reason because I see in many people I know, I've seen it in my own relationships where my partner got frustrated about a lack of intimacy. And in my mind, I'm like, look at this energy you're giving me. Like, it's like I'm not getting the right energy from
Yeah.
you. And I know I know many women that, yeah, they literally say they feel like a mom they feel like, a mother for their
Yeah,
partner. Now, again, it's a two-way street,
it is.
allow your partner to do something even if it's not going to be maybe the exact way that you would do it. Like give them the space to show
Yeah.
you and do it. Allow that space for them. Now, of course, they then need to take initiative to actually fucking do it.
Yeah.
But this is like, ooh, I resonate
Yeah.
very strongly. In my past too, it's like because I'm so assertive and I see opportunities everywhere. So it's like when you're with someone that wants something more for themselves, but isn't acting on it, like they say they
Yes.
want it. I'm like, all right, let's go. Like, I'm like, okay, you want this, you want a new job? Like, okay, here's how you can do it. And then they're not acting on it. And then it's also like, too, you need to release it. Like, it's not my problem. Like, there's things I did in my past 9-month relationship, but that person was just so far not a match for me, like in the
Yeah.
end. But I lived through so many of those things, and then here he is being like emasculated, but that's
Yes.
his own insecurities too, his own inability to communicate to me certain things, but then feeling the most interesting thing about that relationship though is in my now 39 years of life, he is probably my first boyfriend that I accepted exactly as he was. Because I had done
Mm-hmm.
so much personal work myself
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
I always had my 3-year relationship. Poor man, poor guy, because he's such a lovely guy. But I had an expectation of
Yeah.
who I thought he could become. And I was always imagining him 3 steps ahead, and
Yeah.
there's no way he could ever catch up. So the poor man never felt good enough. So I
Yep.
told myself I wasn't going to repeat this. I need to accept my partner exactly as I am. And what's interesting, I did that in my last relationship, but then he constantly, because of his own insecurities, he constant and my strengths and masculinity and masculine energy and so forth,
Yeah.
he constantly questioned if I wanted to be in the relationship. And I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm giving you 200% of me. I'm showing up. Like I was like, I actually told him I've never accepted someone the way I accept you, and you're questioning me. But again, it was like we just weren't aligned.
Yeah. It sounds like in that relationship, you became more secure and he became more anxious. He was more of an anxious attachment style.
He always has been anxious attachment style,
Yeah.
and I am secure attachment style.
Yeah.
So for
So
sure.
like there's a couple things I want to say about this. There's two things. So the first one is like a little bit harsh, not to you, but just in general, in life in general. And I want to prepare your listeners for this. Just get ready, okay?
Give it to me.
What I like to say is there's no such thing as potential. You have results or you don't. If you're interacting with potential, you're interacting with a fantasy. And you need to stop because like you said, you either take them as they are or you leave them as they are because you can't change
Hmm.
a person. The person has to want to change himself.
You can't
It's not
romanticize it.
you cannot it's not romantic actually. It's not romantic to
Mm-mm.
build a man. We're not Build a Bear. This isn't Bob, we're not Bob the Builder, Barbara the Builder, right? Like we don't have time. We're building businesses. We don't have time to build a man. But women get into this because they this is gonna this might piss some people off, but they go for love. They go for romance, they go for love instead of going for a provider, a protector, a king. And
Yeah, I want a king.
this might sound like counterintuitive, but like for women, it's actually less important that they're like madly in love with him. What's more important is that she respects him and she trusts
Hmm.
him and he's consistent and he shows up. Because women go for love and then they believe this potential nonsense and then they get into a marriage and then they have a kid and it's 1 a.m. and the kid just threw up on them and the man is like, you do it, get away from me, and he's like goes and sleeps and then she's like alone and heartbroken and then she winds up like those women in those videos. You don't want a man who doesn't like you. You want a man who genuinely likes you and who you respect. He's got to be a little bit more in love with you than you are with him, right? Because men always need something to earn. If they know they've got you in their back pocket because you're so in love with him and you'll let him walk all over you and still be like, I love you, I'll do anything for you, then he's going to do that. Like men are really smart. They're going to do what they can get away with, basically. And I know that might sound kind of bad, but it's true. It's true. It's kind of like a dog. Like if there's
Hmm.
food on the ground and you're not going to enforce punishment. And there's such a good thing I heard. It was boundaries without consequences are just suggestions.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're like, oh, you need to get a job, and it's like 6 months later, and he's just been on the couch eating bonbons, there's no consequence. So it's just a suggestion, like get a job, you know? That's the first thing that I want to say. And the second thing was, um, it's like I saw a relationship in the beginning stages of this situation that we're talking about right now. My friend, my acquaintance, business friend, messaged me. He's like, I know you're the relationship expert. So this woman that I'm dating, she just told me I'm emotionally unavailable. Like, how do I fix myself? How do I deal with this? And I was like, whoa, wait, like, what context did this come up in? And he was like, well, she told me that she wants to just talk about emotions. And I said, why? And he said, because she said, I'm talking too much about my business. And me knowing this person well, like his whole personality is his business. Like he's obsessed with his business. He has nothing going on in life except his business. And I'm like, what does she mean by like talk about emotions? Does she just want to say like, well, I'm happy, I'm sad, like, oh, how do you feel about pickles? Like what does that even mean? Like, let's talk about emotions. I asked him all these questions and he was like, I don't know, I'm really confused. I was like, you know what? I have a question for you. What do you want? Do you want a trophy wife or do you want a Layla Hormozy? And he was like, I want a Layla Hormozy. And I was like, how does that make you feel when she tells you to stop talking about your business? He was like, I hate it. I feel so sad. And I was like, why did you consider the possibility that maybe she just doesn't like you? Like
Yeah,
your
because this is who you
personality,
are.
yeah, who you are is like this business guru dude who's obsessed with his business. She doesn't like that. Why are you with somebody who doesn't like you? And truth be told, he didn't like her either because he didn't like that she was doing that. But we get in these
Mm-hmm.
weird attachments and then we have
Mm-hmm.
sex, which is such a mistake. Like we just
Mm-hmm.
immediately have like people in these types of situations, they immediately have sex and that messes with your hormones and it creates this like biological addiction on top of the mental addiction to this person, which is no bueno. You really want to be able to see this person clearly for who they are and realize like, oh my God, they just don't like me. It's okay because you don't like everybody either, but go move
Mm-hmm.
on, release them with love, like, be peaceful about it, but move on so that someone who genuinely likes you and is obsessed with you and really appreciates you for who you are can come into your life because they're waiting, they're begging for it. They're like praying, I hope Jane is single right now so that she can come date me. That's what he's praying right now. He's praying that every night over you, you know? And
Mm-hmm.
so by holding your standards high and being willing to walk away from something that just isn't good,
Yes.
isn't right, you make yourself available for that person who's praying for you, begging for you.
1000%. Oh my God, you said so many good things. And that's one thing I see a lot of people, I've seen a lot of people I know stay in things longer. Now, I can say I've stayed in some things longer than I
I have
probably
to.
should. Some of the red
Yeah.
flags at the beginning were the same at the end. Thank
Yeah.
God my last relationship was only like 8 to 9 months, at which we did break up once for 6 weeks, and I went back again. And it's just like so interesting. You can only learn from these things. But I love what you said about seeking out your king that you really respect, because one thing I noticed from the behavior of my ex, he like love bombed me. So it was like, he love bombed me very early on, and he was always telling me how much he valued me, appreciated me, so grateful for me, which inevitably was what he needed to hear.
Hmm.
And so it's interesting. I can see that now, him projecting that onto me. At the time, I was like, oh my God, how sweet is this? Oh my gosh. Like of course I was secure. I had no doubts. Like I had no reason to doubt because I had this person showering me in these things.
Yeah.
However, he didn't, as much as he would say he respected me, he didn't, because I would tell him what I need. If he's going to push my buttons or do things like that, I would tell him what I need. And he didn't respect that.
Yep.
He only did what he wanted, and it didn't matter. There was no boundaries. It was just like, let me walk away. Well, I'm not going to allow that because he couldn't handle it, so it's really interesting. So you're exactly right. Like, we need to really identify what it is that we want, what it is that we don't want, and
Mm-hmm.
stop allowing the shit, stop allowing the things that we don't want to take up our energy. Because I know I'm not afraid to walk away from things. I've ended a number of relationships, even longer term, because it's just not what I knew it wasn't what was best for me, because I need to free my space for like something better, and that's just, I think, something a lot of people naturally, of course, it's scary to walk away from something when you created a life with someone, you live with
Yes.
someone, like all
Yes.
these factors.
Yes.
But in my mind, I'm like, everything's always going to work out anyway. And we had to free that space. I was like, I need to release this. Like, I need to free the space. And then now I notice it faster. So 3 months with this new person, a couple that
Mhm.
just ended a couple weeks ago, you know, we again, I chose a different path. I chose a healthier way. We saw each other only once a week. You know, I was used to diving right in, like going all in. I changed my ways. I slowed things down. I practiced patience. You know, we waited longer to get intimate, like, and all these things. And so I tried something very new. Inevitably, in the end, I knew what I needed. I knew that even, you know, he wasn't able to meet some of those things. And we
Mhm.
were like, we're not much, you know what I mean? We're misaligned.
Yeah.
So it's like, however, it's not always easy to identify these things. I think as well, all the personal work I do as a coach, I'm
Yeah.
able to use the tools I have. I've got friends I can speak to, you know, I have outlets like my best friend I can talk to help me, like, just at least be a sounding board for me.
Mhm.
Okay, so I want to touch on before we wrap up, and we probably maybe touched on some of these, but what would you say are some of like the biggest roadblocks that you help single entrepreneurs, fempreneurs overcome when they're dating to marry?
So I would say like confusion. Like people are just out here and they be confused. They're like, why? Why is my relationships not working? Why am I so exhausted when I'm dating this man? Like, why do I keep attracting this type of man instead of the type of man that I want? Why is it so hard for me to express my emotions instead of just like blowing up, right? So confusion is a really big one. And it all comes back to really getting to know who you are and what you want and really rooting and grounding yourself in that. So that's a really big part of what I do. Training in the masculine and the feminine, like really getting to know, because there's such a thing as called feminine communication. So again, I was at this mastermind and it was like 90% men. And I had a lot of heavy luggage and I was like, I don't want to lift this heavy luggage. Why would I struggle so hard to lift this heavy luggage when this man who's like 6'1", 220 pounds of pure muscle could just do it for me. So in the middle of like the kitchen, everyone was eating. I was like, I'd really love some help with these bags. They're really heavy. Is there any strong man who could carry this? And they all looked at me and their eyes were like, whoa. And they were like, what? You just asked for help. And then two of them
You're
just
like
like, yeah,
Hercules to the rescue.
men want to be a hero. Like you've got to create
100%.
opportunities for them to serve. And
Yes.
like when they put it in the car, I was coming back with my friend and I was like, man, I really appreciate that so much. Those were so heavy. And they were like, I was listening to them talking to each other. They were like, man, it's so nice when women like ask for stuff. Like it makes me feel like a hero. And the other guy was like, yeah, it really does. And it's like, it's just so simple, but people
So
make it so
simple.
complicated. So training in the masculine and the feminine is something that I do. The other thing is deep healing work. So I'm a hypnotherapist. Instead of dealing with the symptoms, I help people get to the root cause of what is going on in their relationship issues and break those negative patterns, beliefs, behaviors, emotions that are keeping them stuck, and then reprogram those so that you have good patterns, habits, beliefs, behaviors that allow life to work for you, that allow your relationships to work on autopilot. So you don't have to think about it all the time. You don't have to consciously be like, okay, hold it back. Okay, be secure. You don't have to consciously think about it anymore. It just becomes like your identity, right? So that really is it. It's like the identity shift. And the deep, deep healing work is also what I help people with as well.
Oh my
And really
gosh.
like trauma, PTSD, like I'm kind of an expert at those things as well. But yes.
And I think I love that how you started with confusion. And my whole goal with this podcast, it's your guide to a happier and fulfilled life. But the reality of this podcast is normalizing, like, it's normalizing all the shit that happens, all the shit we go through that can make it challenging to feel happy. But we don't, you know, it's, oh, as my friend would say, it's like common, not normal. So it's not like it's normalizing it to just show you that yes,
Yeah.
things happen, these things are happening, and we're trying to, like, you know, share with you. I'm trying to share, tap into my life, your life, and the experiences that we've had. It doesn't have to continue to feel that way, right? And especially as you're helping people in their dating, this is so important. So if you're in a relationship right now, if you're
Mhm.
single right now, just
Mhm.
reflect back. Like, how do you feel in your relationship? Now, sometimes we give up on relationships and it just takes a little communication, right? Sometimes we walk away and maybe it
Yes.
needs some communication.
Yes.
Sometimes, no, sometimes you have evolved and you are putting up with bullshit that you shouldn't be
Yeah.
tolerating and you need to move on. But
Yes.
start looking at your behavior because this is where, like, I mean, 2024 is many years over my year, but this is my fucking year. And I know so much good shit is happening and I am releasing all the shit from before. I'm like, no more. And I like one little, like, not even like a yellow flag. And I'm like, nope. Like, you know what I mean? Like, why?
Yeah.
There's trillions of men out there,
Yeah.
whether I meet someone on a dating app or not. And it's like trillions of people that would literally be so grateful
Yeah.
that I was their partner.
Yes.
As would I. I would be so grateful that I have them as a partner. And it's like we just think that like we tolerate bullshit,
Yeah.
tolerate it, and we got to
Right.
stop doing that.
And I think that really comes down to your self-worth and your self-value and your
Mm-hmm.
self-esteem. A lot of the women that stay in relationships too long, it's really a self-esteem issue. It's a self-worth issue because
100%.
they're being treated poorly and their unconscious mind is like, this is normal. This is
Mm-hmm.
normal, but it's not. It's just like you said, it's common. It's not normal.
Mm-hmm.
There's you're worth more. And it's almost like a disservice to both of you to remain in a relationship like that because they're not growing and you're not being treated how you truly deserve. So I'm really excited for your 2024. Like I believe it is your year. I feel it in the energy. I feel it so deeply. And like I can't wait to see the caliber of man that you attract. Like let's like get out there in these masterminds. Let's go
Oh my
and
God, I need to. I'm like,
get that
what was this
exposure.
mastermind you went to? Like, you got to tell me where you're going
Yeah.
to next. I'm going to show up.
Yeah, it was a Brandon Forbes scaled mastermind. Really amazing. It's he like teaches about ads, running ads, and he's also a Christian, so it's like really cool to have that leadership there and the spirituality as a part of it as well. Just the most valuable thing I've ever done, and the caliber of human beings that were there was incredible. I felt like just by listening to them talk, it changed me. And these are the things that I want to do more of. And I'm going to be speaking at a conference coming up soon for somebody who I met at this mastermind,
That's
which is really
incredible.
exciting. Yeah. So I think being in person is so important. Like ever since, the pandy wandy, that the period of time that shall not be named, um, people just have stopped going out and stopped interacting in
Mhm.
person with people. But that's what brings so much life. Like it's so important.
Oh, a
So
thousand percent. And I mean, being someone that wants to be with someone that values personal growth and development, like,
yes.
I need to
Yeah.
be putting myself in places where those people are. And
Mhm.
I know my energy, I know my aura is glowing, like, and I know that even just when I'm out places, like, the one thing that people compliment me on, like anyone, like coffee shop I go to, whatever, they're just like your energy. It's not like I come in, I'm like, ah, it's like I just have such like I don't know what it is, but it's just like brings people in. But it's because I'm
Yeah.
very attentive and I give a lot of eye contact, and I'm very like I love learning about people and I'm genuinely interested
Yes.
and a curious person. So
Mhm.
I think like, yeah, I need to start doing that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Allison, I want to know, share with everyone where you show up. Where do they show up? How can they find you? I'm going to have all of your links in the show notes, so don't worry about that. But where can they find you? What do you got going on?
I love it when people DM me, like on Instagram. Just come on Instagram. It's I am Allison Walters. DM me, ask me questions. I'll answer them and then I'll post it in my stories to help other people too. And then if you are interested in working together, we could do that. Also, I'm on YouTube, got lots of free content for you to support you about all sorts of these topics. So yeah, YouTube and Instagram are the primary places to find me.
Amazing. Well, I want to thank you. This blew my mind.
Yay.
This is very insightful. It actually is very validating too, in a way. You know what I mean? As I'm like thinking about what I'm actually living through. So it's good to hear all the tools and strategies and tips and
Yeah.
information that you shared because it like hits home for me. So I want to thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Jane. It's a privilege. And I just want to affirm like your energy is amazing. Being around you is such a privilege. And you're so sweet. You're so genuine and authentic. And there's such an incredible man in your future. Like, I know it. He's like gonna watch this video and be like, that's my woman, Jane's my woman. This is it. Like, and I'm just, yeah, really grateful to be here.
I love it. Thank you so much.